Hello everyone, welcome back to our YouTube channel. In this video, we are going to discuss about SICI questions. We'll take some simple examples of SICI which are very frequent in CAT, and we will see how we can solve these questions by logical methods much faster compared to our traditional way of solving by applying formulas. So let's start with some basic examples. The first one says, a certain sum was lent at simple interest for 3 years. Had it been lent at the rate that was 7 percentage points higher, the interest would have been rupees 882 more. What is the principal? Okay. So we'll take some initial examples of a simple interest and then we'll take the examples of compound interest. So this is a very simple question of simple interest, which you can easily do by applying formula. Okay. So this is a principle. That means if you keep it at R%, and also if you keep it at R plus 7%. In both cases, it is for 3 years. Then what will happen? In this case, your interest would be rupees 882 more. So I can solve the question by applying formula, but that will take a slightly longer. But instead, if I apply basic logic, the logic is why I'm getting simple interest of 882 more? Because my rate of interest is 7% more. So in other words, the interest on this principal P for 7% at 3 years is 882. Okay, what I'm saying? That on this principal P, if I keep it for 3 years at 7%, my interest would be 882 more. 882, that's all. That's the meaning of this statement. Because the interest is increasing by 7% and your interest is increasing by 882 more. Therefore, I can equate this 7% interest for 3 years on the principal is equal to rupees 882 itself. So, as I know, simple interest equal to what? PRT by 100 or PNR by 100. So I can write P into 3 into 7 by 100 equal to 882. So from this, I can easily find the value of P, which is what? 21. So this would be what? So now the basic calculations I need. Okay, this is 42, which means my principal is nothing but 4200, which is option C. All right, so here the logical approach would be much faster than traditional formula-based approach. Okay, moving on. Now we take a CAT question, actual CAT question appeared in CAT 22. Now we are going to discuss how to approach the question so that my calculations becomes very simple and efficient. So it says, Mr. Pinto invests 1/5 of his capital at 6%, 1/3 at 10%, and the remaining at 1%, each rate being simple interest per annum. Then the minimum number of years required for the cumulative interest income from these investments to equal or exceed his initial capital. Okay, so the last statement is little complex, but इसमें ज़्यादा कुछ है नहीं. Now the here मेन मुद्दा ये है कि व्हाट शुड बी माय प्रिंसिपल. मुझे एक प्रिंसिपल एज्यूम करना है, तो क्या एज्यूम करूं मैं? जनरली पीपल विल एज्यूम एक्स एंड ही विल उसके बाद कैलकुलेट करेगा, बट उससे क्या होगा? कैलकुलेशंस बहुत क्लमजी आएगा, फ्रैक्शन से आएगा, डेसिमल में आएगा. सो वो हम अवॉइड करेंगे. हाउ? नाउ यू सी हियर द फ्रैक्शंस आर व्हाट? 1/5. Another fraction is 1/3. So I will take the total principal as product of the denominator, which is 3 into 5, which is equal to 15. But if I take 15, again, if I calculate the 6% interest, it will become decimals. So to avoid decimals, what I'll take a bigger number. So let's assume principal equal to 1500. इससे क्या होगा? इससे मेरा calculations बहुत simple होगा. Like how? चलो देखते हैं. Let's take my principal is 1500. ठीक है? Now 1/5 capital at 6%. So I keep 1/5 means what? 1/5 of 1500 means 300. So 300 is kept at 6% interest. Then 1/3. 1/3 is what? 1/3 of 1500 is 500. That is at 10% interest. And the remaining, what is the remaining? 300 plus 500 is 800. So remaining is 700. Now that is kept at 1%. And all are simple interest. Now minimum number of years in which the cumulative means total interest becomes equal to the initial capital. Obviously, the number of time period will be minimum if total interest is equal to the minimum, is equal to the capital. Time period is minimum if total interest is equal to capital itself. Okay. If you exceed the capital, then the time period will also increase. So my period will be minimum, right? Minimum period or minimum years will happen if total interest equal to capital. Now, what is my interest for 1 year? If I find out what is the interest for 1 year in each case? This is basically what? PRT by 100. So 300 into 6 into 1 by 100, which is equal to 18. This one, 500 into 10 into 1 by 100, which is equal to 50. And this is 700 into 1 into 100 by 100, which is equal to 7. So what's the total interest in 1 year? That is equal to 18 plus 50 plus 7, which is equal to 75. So let's take after n years, right? Minimum n years, if I say now. So what will be interest for n years? Now in SI, interest follow unitary method. So interest for 1 year is 75. So the total interest for n years, that would be simply 75 into n. Now what I can say? This total interest 75 into n should be equal to total capital, which is 1500. That makes n equal to 20 years. So that's my answer, 20. So in this question, if I take the 1500, my calculation becomes very simple and efficient without getting into any clumsy calculations. Okay. Now let's take another example, which is very common. Right? This is a very common pattern in SI that you have seen. Now, how to solve these questions without any calculations, rather? We can do it mentally without any calculations. Now, what is the approach here to understand? It says a sum of money doubles itself in 8 years at simple interest. In how many years it will become 5 times of itself? So we can do it by writing the formula, but that will take long. So what I can do here, simply, let's take my principal is P. Okay. And after 8 years, it becomes double, means the amount becomes 2p. So if amount is 2p, then what is my interest? Interest is simply amount minus principal, which is p. So we get p interest in basically 8 years. That's the question. Now question is in how many years it will become 5 times. That means from p, it has to become 5p. The amount has to become 5p. So in this case, how much should be my interest? Again, amount minus principal, which is 4p. So we get p interest in 8 years. So 4p interest in how many years? Now, as you know, in simple interest increases by unitary method. So I apply the same logic here. P interest in 8 years. 4p interest will be simply 8 into 4 or 32 years. That's all. So in simple interest, the SI, the value of simple interest follow unitary method. So you can apply that. So I can apply anything. If I say in how many years the money becomes 10 times, so what is the time? So 10 times means it will be 10p, which means interest would be 9p. So time will also become 9 times, which is 72 years. So these I can do it mentally without any calculations, if I understand this. All right. So next we take the similar example for compound interest. This is also a very common example. Now how to do it also without any calculations, without any formula. It says a certain sum of money doubles itself at a certain compound rate in 3 years. In how many years the ratio of principal and compound interest would be 1:7? What does it mean? The principal is to compound interest in the ratio 1:7, which means what? If my principal is x, so my compound interest will be 7x. That means my amount will be principal plus interest, which is basically 8x. So the question is, how many years the money will become 8 times of itself? That's the question. So again, without any formula, what the logic here is, simple shortcut would be, a smarter way would be, a money doubles itself in 3 years. That means if I draw the number line schematic, initially it is P. Now after 3 years, it becomes 2P. That's the meaning. After 3 years, it becomes 2P, means money is becoming double. Now what happens in compound interest? This ratio will remain same. That means after every 3 years, money will keep doubling. So if I extend it, after 3 years means then 6 years, again the money will become double. So it will become 4P. And it will continue. After another 3 years, it will become 8 times, which means it will become 8P. And it will continue. Okay. After another 3 years, it will become double. Money will again become double. So it will become 16P. Right? So as the question says, you just extend it. So after every 3 years, money will become double. If the question says after 3 years or after 5 years, money becomes 4 times, which means after every 5 years, money will become 4 times. So my question is, when the money will become 8 times? So what do you see? Money will become 8 times after 9 years. So that's my answer. So that's the property of compound interest. The ratio of amount and principal remains fixed after every certain period of time. Okay. Now, next we take a real CAT example. Okay. It says Anil invests some money at a fixed rate of interest, compounded annually. If the interests accrued during the second and third year are rupees 806 and rupees 866, respectively, the interest accrued during the fourth year is nearest to what? Okay. So again, if I know the compound interest formula, we know, but it's a very clumsy formula, third year and fourth year, very lengthy and clumsy. But we can do it very easily by applying logic. Now, what is that logic? We know if I draw the number line, initially it is P. After 1 year, this is amount A1. After 2 years, it is A2. After 3 years, it is A3. After 4 years, it would be A4 and so on. Now it says, now I know this is the amount, this is a compound interest for first year. Here you get compound interest for second year. Here you get compound interest for third year. And in this period, you will get compound interest for fourth year and so on. Now it says compound interest for the second year is rupees 806. Compound interest for third year is rupees 866. So what's the compound interest for fourth year? That's my question. Now, what is the logic? The logic, as you know, in compound interest, what happens? The interest increases by R% with respect to the previous year. Okay, if the interest rate of interest is 10%, then interest will increase by 10% with respect to the previous year. That's the property of compound interest. The interest increases by R% with respect to the previous year. If principal is 100 and rate of interest is R%, 10%, then first year interest will be 10, next year interest will be 11, then 12.1 and so on. Means interest will be increasing by R%. So if I apply the same logic here, second year interest is 806 and the third year interest is 866. That means it must have increased by R%. So what will be R% here? So how much it has increased? 806 to 866 means it has increased by 60. So what's the percentage increase? 60 upon 806 into 100, which is approximately, you should just quickly apply the calculator, it will be 7.5%. Little tedious calculation, you can apply the calculator straight away. Which means the next year, interest will also increase by 7.5%. Yeah. Next year also from CR3 to CR5, the interest will increase by 7.5%. So what will the compound interest for the fourth year? Simply now 866 into 1 plus simply 7.5 upon 100, or 866 into 1.075. So quickly apply the calculator. It will be roughly 931, which is there in option 1. So that is my simple answer. So these are some logical approach where we can apply in SICI questions, which will make things very faster and simpler compared to a traditional formula approach. Okay, so with this, I am signing off. In the next video, I will come up with some other topic and some related examples where you can do things much faster.